cheers, happy Wednesday, and welcome to Trades Lady Happy Hour, where every week I meet with and introduce you to a incredible woman of the automotive industry, mostly trades women. This week we're doing something a little bit different. We have a guest who is a director of a reconditioning center. So not necessarily hands-on, but I think we'll have some really interesting perspective and insight as to the challenges that I think women face across all areas of the automotive industry. And kind of across all non-traditional fields in general. So even though she is not a typical tradeswoman, I think she has a ton to bring to the table. And I'm really excited to hear her story and how she got into automotive and what she is seeing on her side of things as far as the challenges the industry is facing, as far as challenges women within the industry are facing. So I'm excited to have her join us. For those of you who are new here for Trades Lady Happy Hour, the whole purpose of this is to bring awareness to the amazing women of the automotive industry, of the hands-on trades, women who generally are not, they don't get seen, right? That we are a minority. Women are about 2.5% of all automotive technicians. Across the various different trades, the numbers vary a little bit, but it's never a large number. So there's not a ton of us, but there are a ton of us, if that makes sense. There's a lot of amazing women out there who are doing really awesome work, and they rarely get their story heard. They rarely get the attention that they deserve. They're just out there kind of kicking butt every day. And this is a series that is kind of focused around shining a light on them and giving them some love and attention, and saying, yes, women are out here, women are rocking it, and if given the opportunity, women can really succeed and excel in these career paths. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for joining and coming back each week. I will warn you that there are some crazy kittens flying around the house that will probably make an appearance at some point through this live. I'm hoping that they're somewhat well behaved. This is kind of the witching hour for them. Last week I was in a hotel, so it was a little bit easier to avoid the craziness, but this time maybe not so much. So yes, thank you guys for coming and tuning in. Thanks for those who are coming back week after week. Thank you for those who are tuning in for the first time. Welcome. I do want to give a big thank you to our sponsor and partner in these happy hours. DriveTime has partnered with us about probably 2 or 3 months ago now. We've been working with them, and they've been really showing their commitment to promoting women in the trades and supporting bringing more technicians into the industry, regardless of gender, raising up new people, and really doing their part to help make a dent in the trade deficit that we're experiencing. So I'm very grateful for them. And this week's guest is actually a DriveTime employee. She is going to be joining us through the DriveTime Instagram account, I believe. So without further ado, I'm going to get her join in on this. The lovely Felicia Keys will be joining, and let me see if she's entered the room yet. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying yes to hanging out with me for a little bit. Are you at home today?
Well, I work today and I've been home just for a little bit. So I tried to make it home in time so that I could join this call and not do it from the office. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you are in the office. You're not a work from home. You're not one of the lucky few that gets to work from home, huh?
Oh no, I'm definitely in the office. I don't know if I could work from home I don't know if I could really do that. I've gotten so used to like being out in the shop environment.
Right.
I used to work in a corporate office, but yeah, that would be a big change.
So you work out in the shop every day.
Yeah, I'm at the reconditioning facility, and my station is in the area where our technicians are. So I'm plugged in there so I can see, all the things that are going on and try to be available for everybody.
Awesome. Very cool. So introduce yourself quickly for everybody. I gave a quick little nutshell, but this is my first time meeting you as well. So we're all folks at home. We're all going to be getting to know Felicia together. So tell me quickly what your role is and what you do in your role, and then we'll kind of dig into the past and all that good stuff.
Of course. Yeah, my name is Felicia Keys. I run one of the largest reconditioning facilities that DriveTime has. It's located in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the largest one in the country. My role is essentially the management of our inventory, our processes, and obviously our people. And that's always like the thing that's most important to us. And to ensure that ultimately we are providing a quality car to all of our customers.
And you've been with DriveTime for some time now.
Yeah, this will be my 8th year with the company.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool.
I can't believe that much time has gone by.
Are you from Atlanta originally?
No, I'm not actually. Born and raised in Florida.
Oh.
Lived there my whole life. I literally just relocated to Atlanta 4 months ago.
Okay.
So I'm new for work, strictly for work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm new to this area, and it's been really interesting.
I bet. Big switch from Florida?
Oh, most definitely. Even the size of the facility. So where I was working was we produce like 25 cars a day. And then Atlanta, obviously it's larger. So we're doing over 60 cars a day. So,
oh, wow. That's
yeah.
a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how large of a you're the director of kind of the overall facility, yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how big is this facility? How many employees?
Yeah. So we have a little over 150 employees.
Wow.
Yeah. 68 of them are technicians.
Okay.
And we have about 10 people in our leadership staff, like as far as operations managers are concerned.
Okay. That's
Mm-hmm.
a huge group to be overseeing.
Yeah, it is a large facility. The space itself holds, I think our capacity is at like 3,000. We max out at about 3,000 cars. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Per or like total?
No, that's a store. That's a storage capacity. That's like how many cars we can actually store at our facility. Right now, we currently have about 1,500 cars.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask what you're drinking. What are we drinking tonight?
So this is Mango White Claw.
Mango White Claw, my girl.
It's not water in that glass.
We got the claw in the house. All right. I love it. Very
yes.
Cool. Not mango White Claw, but that's okay. No judgment. And I'm being flanked by kittens right now, so I'll let them say hello.
Hi.
All right. Hopefully they won't distract me too much during this. So huge facility that you're in charge of. How you were in the automotive industry before you got in with DriveTime, correct?
Yeah. So I worked for Ford Motor Credit Company, the financing side. I was there for 15 years prior to coming over to DriveTime. Okay. So I started at the very bottom there and kind of worked my way up. And kind of at that 15-year mark, I was getting a lot of feedback and noise. Like people were like, you should do something different. And so I did. And I applied, I think it was on Indeed. It was a new realm for me because when I worked at Ford, you didn't have to go online to apply for anything, right? You just literally walked into, you scheduled an interview, you handed them your resume. It was a completely different world for me. So I applied on Indeed. It was the first job that I actually applied for after 15 years. And I got a call back that same night from one of the recruiters. And the rest is kind of history from there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Did the automotive industry was that an accident, or did you pursue the automotive industry?
No, it just kind of happened that way. So when I graduated college, I was just trying to see what I wanted to do next. And I started actually working at a temp company with Ford Motor Credit Company. And then they brought me on permanent. But I literally started from the bottom. I was like a title clerk there at Ford. Yeah, I started as a title clerk and I held several different positions there because I was there for so long, obviously. But yeah, I never imagined being in the automotive industry and more specifically like at DriveTime and doing what we actually do. Yeah. I don't really think I thought that I was capable of doing what we actually do.
What about it? I mean, it's a little bit of a switch, but it's not really that much of a switch. I mean, you were dealing with people, doing finance, like that was kind of always the thing, and that's kind of your thing, managing people, right? So what was the switch and what scared you about it, or what felt intimidating about it?
Well, so when I remember specifically when I was looking through the job description, when I applied online, I was like, this seems like something that I could do. But it was when I got there that it was like, oh my gosh, what did I sign myself up for? I don't really know if this is something that I can actually do. I remember standing in the parking lot thinking that. So we have a very specific way in which our vehicles maneuver through the parking lot and come into the building. And I am like hugely directionally challenged in like a major way. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do this. There are cars everywhere. How am I going to navigate that? You know? And honestly, I think it just, once I connected myself with the right people there and they really helped me to kind of understand what I was doing, processes, it really just became second nature. It was exciting learning something new because I had been doing the same thing for so long, but having the opportunity to learn something new was really cool and I was excited by it. And yeah, that's kind of how that landed for me.
How is that? I mean, you're overseeing technicians, you're overseeing, we're a motley crew, us technician folks.
Yeah.
We're not always the easiest to manage.
Yeah.
You're coming in kind of as an outsider to all of this. How has that experience been? Has it been different than you expected? Better, worse?
You know, yeah, I think really for me, I knew going into it that, you know, coming into an environment that was primarily male driven and being, you know, obviously a woman and not having that automotive background, that I would probably need to work a little harder. I think one of the things that I went in knowing was people just want to be respected and they want to see that you're trying and that you are making an attempt to understand what we're doing. And let me tell you, like, the technicians have been some of my favorite people that I've worked with there. You probably saw one of the pictures I sent you. Like, those were two of my like really favorite people. They would help me with anything that I needed, teach me how to do things. I never knew how to change a battery. Like, they were the ones that taught me how to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think more than anything, at the end of the day, we're all just people, and the technicians, as rough as they can be, once you just get to know their softer side and try to connect with them on just a human level, has always been my approach, and just building that relationship from there. And really, it's I'm in Atlanta now in a completely new environment where I had to start all over again because I worked in an environment for the last 7.5 years where everybody knew me and I knew everyone there. And so I'm having to, you know, develop these new relationships, earn their trust, earn their respect. And I've pretty much taken that same approach. It's just really trying to connect with them and get to know them as people.
I think I'm glad to hear you say that and kind of like leading with that everybody really just wants to be respected and to be treated well. And I think I hear often, you know, from managers and from business owners that, you know, technicians are different, right? Like managing the automotive industry is somehow this like special snowflake that has such different rules that apply to it. And it's not really, like, we're all human beings. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we do. We all want the same things. And I think technicians are probably they don't get it nearly enough in the field, in their jobs. Typically throughout this industry, what technicians are not getting a ton of respect. How have you navigated with them? Like, how do you build that relationship with the techs that you're working with to show them that you're on their side, to create that teamwork environment that I know DriveTime is really known for?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I make it a habit to do to any location that I start with, and that is having a meeting with every single employee in the shop. And like in Atlanta, you know, we have over 150 employees, and I'm almost done with my list after 4 months of being there.
Oh, wow.
But people can respect and appreciate that I'm taking the time to do that because it's not something that I'm required to do. So we have these meetings and these conversations really, and it's really just to get to know them. It's not about work. It's not about what are your goals and aspirations. It's, hey, tell me about you. What do you like to do? What's your family life like? And then I allow them to ask me any questions that they want, and we just kind of start from there. And so we build that small foundation. And that has been a really good stepping stone for me with like that connectivity piece. Even with like some of our entry level employees, we do the same thing. And I feel like that's one of the things that has really helped me to bridge that initial connection.
Okay, so I've got to ask, since you're meeting
Yeah.
with all of these techs,
Yeah.
have you noticed any themes?
No, not really. I think
Okay.
probably the one thing that's pretty consistent is that I think people have the wrong perception of a technician. I think they come across a little bit rough, but man, I have some of the best conversations with them. They're just as soft as they come, you know, and you just have to get through that initial exterior piece, and then you can have that connection point with them. But no real like, continuous theme that I notice when I meet with them, because they're all a little bit different and their needs are a little bit different. I do have some that say like, I just want to come in and do my job. And then they eventually warm up too. Like those are the ones that I love the most because they challenge me, right? To really try to get in there and really understand like who they are, like what are their hot buttons, what are the things that they like. So those are the people that the more challenging to get to know. I find that better because it's a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Do you feel like it's a benefit that you kind of come that you're not from within, that you're not a tradesperson, or that you're not necessarily you can't kind of came from outside of the automotive industry in a sense, even though you're with Ford, it wasn't really.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, I wouldn't say that it's a benefit or a negative. I think it's pretty neutral, because I'm coming in to understand what are the things that need to be fixed. What can I do to help you with your career growth? And what do you need from us just in general? Like our company, one of the things about DriveTime is that we don't ever lead with titles. That's just not who we are as an organization. A really good example of that, we had an employee technician, a technician two, which is our higher level technician, started with us the beginning of April. And I met him out in the parking lot. I was marking up some vehicles and we just started talking and he didn't know who I was. He just thought I was an employee talking to him. And it was 2 weeks later, he's like, "Hey, I heard that you were the director of this location." I was like, "Who told you that? I think you got that wrong," you know? So we really lead from a place of just trying to keep the environment very neutral and comfortable, and we want to be approachable for our folks.
I've been struck, and I don't necessarily want to make this like a drive time commercial, but
Yeah.
I think it's part of it's part of who you are as well at this point, and you're part of making drive time what it is. So without getting too commercially sounding, um I feel like I've seen a lot of real passion around doing things differently at drive time. Like what are you doing within your space, within your center that is geared toward like how are you doing things differently to create the teamwork, to create that environment where technicians can thrive and have better opportunities in their careers? What are some of the things that you guys do differently there that you do differently?
Yeah. So I think, one of the things that we as a company do, and then myself in general, is we create an environment where people feel like they can come and talk to you. I think it starts there. I know, like in my past company, I personally never felt like I could go into my boss's office and just have the conversation because I think I lacked some of the confidence there just to do that in general. But we try to foster, and I know it does sound very commercially, but you have to live it to understand it. When we say drive time family, we mean drive time family. We really try to foster an environment where people feel like they can come to us and their needs are going to be met. We don't we do not address things that are going on within the facility, within the employee's personal life. We really try to make sure that we are providing a very wholesome working environment for everyone. We address issues as they happen, and me personally, I just kind of echo those same sentiments. I'm a very direct leader. But I also like to make sure that people know they can come to me when they need something and that we're actionable. We try to handle things immediately when they happen and not put things on the back burner so that the employees feel like, if I got a concern, they're going to listen to me and we're going to talk about it.
Are a lot of your technicians, do they come from other places in the industry, or are you guys raising up new technicians?
It's a combination of both, but we have primarily guys who have, been around for a while. Most of them come in from a flat rate environment, and then they come into our shop, and it's just like a breath of fresh air for them.
Oh, you guys aren't flat rate.
No, we are not. We are not flat rate. We're hourly. So yeah, we have a lot of season techs that come in, and they're really excited regarding the schedule and as a whole. Like that's a really big seller for us. Plug Monday through Friday, no weekends. So that's a really big selling point. We end at 2:30 every day. So yeah, that's a big one for us.
Can we talk about the flat rate thing a little bit?
Yeah.
I'm sure obviously you've worked with people who have done the flat rate thing. You guys do not. Can you tell me about the philosophy and why you choose that and how people's kind of reactions are to it? I think there's a lot of discussion these days about flat rate and is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And there's strong advocates and there's strong what's the dissenters? I'm not sure what the right word is there. Like there are folks. It's very polarizing. I feel like the responses on flat rate. I'm curious.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like we have these discussions at the shop, especially like even during the interview process, that always comes up. People are usually very shocked to learn that we are not in a flat rate environment. And I think one of the things that typically comes out of those discussions from the technicians who've been, say, flat rate for the last 20 years of their life, like that's just all that they know. They feel way more appreciated and they feel like the environment is different in that they're not competing with other technicians. I think in a flat rate environment, some techs feel like the environment becomes very competitive, and there's nothing wrong with a little bit of competitive spirit. But I also think with that, sometimes it's who in the shop, what you're going to get from a build time perspective. Mm-hmm. So that definitely is involved. And we don't look at that. It is per unit, build a car.
Do you find, because I think, I talk with shop owners and shop managers all across the country, and, most are still on the flat rate system. And the fear is, all right, if we take away flat rate, well, then what's their incentive to move quickly, to be efficient, to not stand around and hold their toolbox down? Do you, it doesn't sound like you guys struggle with that. How do you have to implement other things to complement not having flat rate so that you have like the whole picture?
Yeah, so we have a very regimented system in which we expect for our technicians to perform. Even if you're technician 1, which is our entry level tech, that they perform the mechanical inspection, to our highest level tech, the T2 and then the T3. But for the technician 2 specifically, I think the way we lead really curbs any of that, I guess, the anxiety behind, well, they're not going to work as fast, they're not going to do as much because you're paying everyone the same. And that's just not our company philosophy. We really don't go with that competitive edge. I'm not saying that flat rate is a bad thing. I just think for us, our model works.
Yeah. I find that management is the answer, right? Like we're like, oh, flat rate's better, hourly's better. Yeah. Either or. I think a good technician is going to work well on flat rate or on hourly, right? Some technicians need to be motivated by flat rate. They need that carrot. But a good tech, I think, is going to operate equally well. But it comes down to management, right?
Yeah. You got to be there to support them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got to keep them moving. You got to go. You hand them the RO. It's like, hey, this says you're going to be done in 2.5 hours. I'm going to come back over here and check on you and see how things are going. And that's what you have to do.
Do you have other incentives in place? Is it strictly hourly? Are there bonus structures, that kind of stuff?
So we do give all of our technicians a monthly tool bonus program. Ooh. They are part of that, which is a really cool incentive if, that's one of the big things for techs, right? Making sure they have their tools. And then for our entry-level techs, we are really trying to foster an environment where we're thinking about what their development will look like. So they come in as a technician one, our entry level tech, and they do all the right things. We put them through a program. And if they're doing well and they feel like this is, hey, this is where I want to be, we also provide tools for our technicians to help transition them from that T1 to that T2 role, which is really cool. I don't know a lot of companies out there that offer tools and a toolbox, as part of a program. And it's an incentive to help them get to where they're trying to go, because that is one of the more expensive things to do, right? Is getting that starter set of tools.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's when I heard that the first time, I was like, oh my God, like floored. And it is such, it's that outside of the box thinking that I feel like our industry in general is really struggling with, right? Like, is we're not attracting technicians. How do we find technicians? And then we're not looking at like what are all the obstacles and the barriers for folks to enter the industry, right? And tools is a big piece of that. And what can we do differently as businesses, as managers, as shops to stand out and be different and combat those challenges that keep people from joining our industry. And like tools is huge. It is huge. So it's really good to hear that you guys do that. Is that very well received by the technicians? I assume
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. It's one of those things where they have to go, what? Like, that's a
What?
thing. That's a thing.
What?
Yeah. They can almost not believe it, but yeah, it's a thing. I think we're a little ahead of the industry in regards to that. I think it's the right thing to do. And we're just setting them up for success, for future success.
Do you wind up in your position, or do you wind up going out and like meeting with other shops or going to networking events or conferences with other industry players?
No, I have not done any of those things. We have for the last 2 years participated in the women in automotive industry conferences.
Oh,
Because
good.
of COVID, they've all been virtual.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we were going to be going to the first one, and then COVID happened, and then it wasn't a thing. It became virtual. But yeah, no, that's not really something that I do.
Okay.
In my
Well,
role.
we got to get you out to some of them. The women in auto care is a good one.
Yeah.
We got to get you out to one of those. But I'd be curious to see like what your experiences were in like kind of comparing with some of the other, because you're coming in now from a very specific place in automotive, right? Experiencing DriveTime is a very different sort of experience than a lot of other shops that are out there.
Right.
So
I've heard the stories. I've definitely heard the stories
from the technicians, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Do you hear a lot of like sob not I don't say sob stories, but like the concerns and the complaints and the things that the technicians are struggling with or have struggled with at other shops?
Surprisingly, I feel like the overwhelming thing that I hear is they feel like they're not as appreciated in some of the smaller, like mom and pop shops. Like they don't get that level of appreciation, I think, that they want and that they need. And so at our scale, obviously, I think everybody to some degree wants to feel appreciated. I see the cat back there, wants to feel appreciated.
Yes, she also wants to feel appreciated. Yes. Yes, they all want their moment.
Mm-hmm.
They're ridiculous. But yeah, and then you said that at the beginning, the appreciation, right? Like it's a shock to me, and it's not a shock to me all at the same time, that like that is the number one thing. Like that's all it is. It's appreciation. It's telling people thank you, right? It's
such a small thing, right? I mean, and it should be very organic, right? It shouldn't be a forced thing. Like it should just be, and we really I'm personally like today, I asked some guys to stay late to help us with a project that we're working on. And just like, thank you guys for staying late. I know you didn't have to do this. Small group of people. They're like, heck yeah, we want to be here. We're trying to get things in order there, And so you get them bought in. They understand what's going on, and the messaging that's behind that is really important as well. But yeah, I think people want to feel appreciated.
Yeah. I think appreciation sometimes comes in different forms, right? People are it can be felt in different ways. It can be felt in financial, it can be felt in all of these other different ways. And like, I don't want to discredit any of those things. I feel like, gosh, just a thank you is such an underused thing, right? Yeah. I remember an employee of mine from many, many years ago. She had just started out with me. She was a customer service rep. And after she left one day, I told her, I said, "Thanks, great work today. I appreciate you." And she walked out the door and she poked her head back in like a few moments later. And she goes, "Can I just say, I cannot remember the last time I was thanked by an employer in my entire life." I'm like, that is a sad, sad statement, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It
that
takes
is.
little. And I think the automotive industry technicians have been really underappreciated and undervalued and not well treated for far too long.
And it's such a unique skill set. You know, I remember when I first started and I would see them take a car apart and there are a million screws and nuts all over I mean, I have pictures of all that stuff because I'm like, you're never going to put this thing back together again. This is never going to happen, right? And the next day the car is back together again. It's
Right.
amazing the talent, that's behind the technicians. I just think they don't get enough credit for what they do and the skill set behind what they do. It's really fascinating to me. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious for you coming in, you were, non-automotive person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coming into this, did your perception of cars in general and your perception of technicians change dramatically after working with DriveTime?
I think my perception of technicians has changed. I always thought that there was a certain roughness. They're just there to take your money. These things aren't broken, like all of these things, right? I definitely think that has changed. Regarding cars, I've always liked cars. It's a weird thing that I do. At night, I can tell you exactly what the car is just by the headlights.
Really? You're one of those people?
8. It's just really weird. I don't know why I do that, but I can tell you exactly what the car is. Yeah, I've always liked cars, but
that's impressive. I can't do that.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. My husband will always go, "So what kind of car is that?" And we just do this thing when we're driving in the car together. Yeah.
Oh, how funny. Okay, I want to dig into that more, but I want to finish your thought about your perception of technicians.
Yeah, so I kind of thought that, the technicians were just people that I may not be able to truly connect with. But again, going back to what I said earlier, at the end of the day, we're all just people and everybody just wants to be heard, seen, and understood. Mm-hmm. And I think that was really one of the things that I saw differently. They're just, regular people trying to get stuff done, just trying to get stuff done. Yeah. And you got to extend the olive branch, have some conversation, talk about things, see what they need. I mean, and a lot of our techs, they love for you to go like, "Man, like that's super cool." They like to hear like, "Oh, you think I'm great? You think I'm good? You think that's impressive? Let me show you this, let me show you what else I can do." So anytime I walk by and there's something that's complicated, they're all like, "Hey, come over here, Felicia, let me show you this." You make it a point to tell me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And you are genuinely interested. So it's not just
I want to know. I want to learn. I mean, they teach me more than anything, I don't know half of that stuff that they're looking at. They're the ones that educate me.
Are cars more complicated than you realize now that you're?
Oh my gosh, way more complicated than I ever imagined. Yeah, I have so much respect for just technicians as a whole. Like, I don't think you really can understand that until you're like in the middle of that environment and you see all that they can do. Honestly, it's a tremendous trade. It really is.
I think that's probably one of the biggest. Personally, I think one of the biggest challenges that faces the industry, and we have a ton of challenges, and I'm curious to hear what you think our biggest challenges are. But I definitely think at the heart of a lot of it is this lack of understanding of how complex our vehicles are and what it takes to do what technicians do, right? The skill that is involved for a technician working on modern vehicles. Like, mm-hmm. The general public has no idea. Mm-hmm. No idea.
Mm-hmm. No, it's one of those things where, again, you don't know what you don't know. And if I were still working at Ford, I wouldn't have the same perspective that I do and what's involved in just some of the small repairs that we do on vehicles and the time that it takes for them to do that and how much work and energy it takes for them just to get to one small thing to fix inside of the car, all of the work that they have to do just to fix a small component. Yeah. So yeah, I never had much respect. I didn't know, but yeah, I mean, it's an amazing craft. And I fear, is it a dying field? Is it a thing where the new generations are not learning, some of these skill sets that some of our more seasoned and tenured technicians, that baseline that they have. And that's why I think it's so important that these type of conversations are happening and promoting the growth of having more females in the automotive industry. I think that's kick ass, like we need more of that. I think that's a more untapped potential. One of the things that when I first started with DriveTime, I asked my boss, I remember specifically, like, why are there not a lot of female employees, working here? And his response was, Felicia, they just don't apply. And it was very true in those first few years. We just didn't get a lot of female applicants. I mean, I was the one doing all the interviews, and it just wasn't a thing. But we've since broadened like the positions that we have there that are more diversified for everyone. So we don't have as many female techs as I would like, but we definitely aren't shying away from it. It's just, I think a lot of people don't think about us in that way, or know that we have these reconditioning facilities all over the country, that there's 15 of them, and that we have all these different positions available for, male, female. We want everybody. I feel like some of the things that might be getting lost in the automotive industry is that skill. Like, it is a unique skill. And I know some people, they've grown up their whole lives working on cars. That's just what they do. We love, those type of technicians.
Yeah. Do you struggle finding technicians? Like, much of the entire industry is struggling to find people. Do you feel that you have that same struggle?
Yeah, I definitely think across the country, we're having some of those same struggles. The bigger part is we get people to come in, they'll interview for, the technician role, but for us, it's more than just the ability to perform the mechanical piece. We also want to make sure that we're getting the right culture fit, someone that really fits in and meshes with our culture. So that's really important for us as well. So sometimes that's why we don't always get that technician right away, but we take our time and we find the right fit for our company.
Are you doing a lot of training up of new technicians?
Yeah, so we have, we typically will partner them, like with our T1s with people, with our more skilled technicians for a certain period of time. But we do have some training programs with A Tools and CTI, which is CarQuest Technical Institute.
Okay.
That's also another avenue that we utilize.
Awesome. Very cool. Do you have any women at your center?
At my center, we do have females there. We don't have any female technicians, but we do have females that I know. I know. We're going to get some, though. Yeah. They're going to be applying. We're going to find some. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Are you guys doing any sort of outreach just for techs in general, male or female, to cultivate and reach out to new people, or is it mostly just waiting for people to apply?
Yeah, mostly it's waiting. We do have our recruiting team, and obviously they're hunting for people, but we take everyone. So we're looking for everybody.
Soft pitch there. Soft pitch. Anybody looking for a job?
Anyone that's looking.
Great culture, tools.
All those things. Great schedule. All of those things.
So in your experience now with the 8 years in the automotive industry through DriveTime and with kind of on the Ford credit side of things, pretty much, your entire life you've been in the automotive industry in some aspect or another. Mm-hmm. What have you seen? What do you think are the biggest challenges that face the industry?
Honestly, I think like the thing that we were just talking about, the ability to find people to perform the roles. That is our greatest opportunity right now. The work is there. It's just really finding that employee to perform those roles. It's really very challenging. It's a challenging market right now. And obviously we're very competitive, but I think that's our greatest opportunity, is finding quality people.
Do you have a sense or a gut as to where the root of that is, or if there's multiple things that kind of lend to why we have such a deficit of people?
I'm not really sure. I do think that things So when I was in Florida and our facility, we never really lost a lot of technicians. After COVID, we lost some folks. And from that point forward, we found it very challenging to get those people back.
Oh,
And so I think there's been a shift just in the way that people view work in general
hmm.
and their balance for their quality of work, quality of home life, and quality of work life, and maybe finding different avenues that earns them mostly that same type of income. It's just my point of view on it. But yeah, I definitely feel like there was a shift after COVID that
Interesting.
happened. Mm-hmm.
And that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. I've not heard that before, but I'm also mostly interacting with and surrounded with people who are like, they've been kind of beating the same drum about the industry challenges for probably 20, 30 years now. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same story over and over again as to where we point the finger and where the blame is. I don't know that I agree with all of it, but it's interesting to hear that perspective. So you've seen a significant shift with COVID. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, really significant. And it was just very telling for me, like 7 years of not, I should say 6 years at that point, of not really ever struggling to get people. And then after that happened and we kind of restarted, came back, and it was not the same. And I think I could say that respectively for a lot of our locations. We just never came back fully. We did for a period there last year, and then lately I feel like it's still kind of just stabilized. It's not what it used to be regarding the candidacy pool.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I, and so what's the fix for that? Like people are leaving for better pay, better flexibility. Is that what you're seeing? Or
No, I don't think
protection?
I think maybe it's not flexible. I feel like we have the most flexible schedule from an automotive standpoint that you could ask for, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 2:30. Um, I just think that people value like things a little differently. I think people look at their lives differently over the last 2 years than maybe they did prior, where it was more like hustle, grind, work, work, work. I mean, I'm still in that camp, but I
Yeah.
think that there are a lot of people that just decided like, hey, I don't have to do this way anymore. And I feel like we feel the impact of that.
Yeah. Do you feel like people are leaving the trade?
I feel like it's not that people are leaving the trade. I think that people want to do this trade on their own schedule. They don't want to be bound by any type of corporate restraints.
Yeah.
I think that they feel like this is something they could do on the side and be just as financially successful as they could be working, in an actual environment where they have to report to a manager. They're on a set schedule. I think those things are more realistic now than they were 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And of course, like part of me like viscerally reacts to that,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
I hear you.
and I hear you. Like I totally hear you. And I think there's a lot of validity in what you're saying. I think there is definitely that inclination. I hear all the time, and probably more so now than ever, to your point, like I'm going to start my own shop. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm just going to start my own business. I'm going to work on the side. And then there's that piece of me that's like, oh, it is like so much harder than you think it is to do it on your own.
People have become very courageous. They're just like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it,
Right.
and see what happens. I think the overall theme is like, if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back, I'll just go back because they need me so I can go back. So I think people feel that way about it.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Which is,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if that's a cycle that we see, right? Because they did, 95% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years, unfortunately, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And your point also is, as mechanics, we are in high demand and we can find a job whenever, wherever. Like everybody is hiring. Every shop I know is hiring.
Yeah.
So there is that security blanket of nobody can take these skills out of my hands, and I'll always have a job somewhere.
Yeah.
So
I think they're less dialed in. It's like they're there, but I think there is that certain level of assurance. Like, well, I don't have to do this. I can't do this on my own, but that's why we really try to make sure that we're offering all of these other things that will make you want to stay with us and grow with us.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah.
Good perspective. See,
Mm-hmm.
it's always interesting to me, like the outsider perspective. And you're not an outsider, you're an insider, but you weren't like you didn't come up in the industry as a technician, and that's a very
Right.
different perspective than somebody who was a tech, became a shop owner, became a manager. Right? It's a very different kind of way of looking at things. So very interesting. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
curious. I'm curious now. We've got to dig back into the fact that you can recognize cars just by their taillights and their headlights.
Don't know why I can do that, but I can. I don't know.
Were you always a car girl?
I feel like I've always liked cars. Not fascinated in the fact like I want to go to car shows this weekend, like let's do all these things, but I just pay attention and I don't know. It's a weird thing that I can do. I can't really explain it.
I don't
I
think it's
just
weird.
know
It's awesome. I'm jealous.
yeah, it's just a weird thing that I've always been able to do it. It's like this thing that we do when we're in the car. Like, what car is that? And then he'll slow down and wait for it to come up, and it's like, oh yeah, that's what it is. So it's kind of fun. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
this was long before you joined the industry.
Oh yeah, yeah. Long before I joined DriveTime or even Ford for that matter. Just
Wow.
It's a weird thing. I can't explain it.
Did you grow up around, like, was your family into cars?
We traveled a lot and
Okay.
sitting in a car, and I think that is part of it. We did a lot of traveling, and I think it's just something that I paid attention to. And like when you're in your quiet thoughts and you're just looking, and it's like stuck in my brain. Oh, that's what that is. Oh, that's a Ford Taurus, like 1980. Like I just know these random facts about cars.
You were just destined to be a car. That's amazing. I am jealous of that skill, can I just say? Because I do not have that. Like,
Yeah.
I am that person who's like, that's a car, it's a four-door. I don't have my glasses on, I can't see what the badge says. Like,
yeah, no, I hear you. And I think it really hyped itself up even more when I started working at DriveTime and just being surrounded by like every kind of car there is, Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, I can't tell you what it is, but I hear it go down the road and I'm like, it's got a misfire.
See, and I could never do that. I could never do that. And so I envy that skill. I envy that.
Favorite car?
Probably, I think I like BMW, Tesla. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you say Tesla too?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Do you see a lot of either of those at DriveTime?
Lots of BMWs, okay. Not as many Teslas.
No.
BMWs. Yeah. BMWs for sure. They're everywhere. Mercedes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm. You like BMW? Is that why you were just like?
I was a BMW technician for 7 years at the dealership. And then,
okay.
Yeah, so BMW is kind of my training and my background.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I like them. They're fun. Do you drive a BMW?
I do.
Nice. What do you have?
An X5.
Okay. Those are fun. I like them. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so wait, our hour has gone really quickly. We're already like 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Wow.
How did that happen?
I didn't even look at the time, honestly.
I know.
Wow.
I was just like, okay. Wow, look at that. So this is going very fast. I do have a couple of questions that I want to see if there's anything that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about yet. But because I think your perspective is a really good one, and one that we definitely don't hear often on Trades Lady Happy Hour. And so I want to kind of throw out some hypotheticals here, I guess, is if I were able to give you a magic wand and make you, queen for the day and give you the ability to change, anything about the industry, about the experience of technicians, about how the automotive industry is perceived, any of the struggles or challenges that you see, if you could make a change with a magic wand, what might it be?
I think I would like to equalize like the pay for our technicians. I think I would start there, where there could be more stability within that realm if the variations weren't so grand. I mean, we talk about flat rate, it's, this, and then you talk about hourly. And sometimes it's really hard to talk a technician to really understand hourly versus flat rate. They just can't see past the benefits of the hourly versus the flat rate. So I think I would love to just equalize that a little bit more so that people could find that stability, find a company they want to stick with and stay with, and still feel like they have that same level of security.
Amen to that. I second that with you. Cheers. That is like the number one thing that needs to change is how we value and pay our technicians. 100%.
Yeah. I think that definitely needs some opportunity for improvement.
Yes. Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting thing, right? To your point, we have to know so much, right? To work on these cars. We get, generally speaking, we get underpaid, underappreciated. We're not thanked. And yet we still have to pay $9 million of tools and training and all of the rest of it. So the things that you guys are doing to kind of stabilize that out a little bit, to take care of tools or to help with tools, at least in a large way, like that's huge.
Yeah, I never knew. I didn't have a concept regarding tools and the boxes, just how much money people are investing in their craft. Like $30,000, $40,000 boxes. I can't even believe that that's a thing, you know, but it is a very big thing.
It's a huge thing. It's insane. I read a study once, this was years back, but I read a study that they had surveyed like average Americans, right? Non-automotive folks, and asked them what the value of tools were that the average technician owned. Like what dollar value there was the average technician's tools. And the consensus was the average American thought that the average technician owned $5,000 worth of tools. Like that doesn't even buy the toolbox.
Yeah, no. And I probably thought it was less than that, honestly. Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. Yeah. I definitely know better now, obviously. It is quite the investment. It's quite the investment.
I feel like raising awareness about that in and of itself would make a big difference.
Yeah. And it all has to start somewhere. And I think these discussions, you know, are good for that, to allow us to kind of normalize the conversation and make people aware, because like myself, I didn't know that technicians were spending that much money just on their boxes alone, not even including the tools that they're putting inside of them, you know? And they take it very seriously. I have one guy that I saw just the other day. He had literally a like a Ring-ish doorbell attached to his box. So he can keep track and see who's walking by and touching his box. Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, I know.
Trust issues, maybe?
I think so. Yeah.
Were there, excuse me. Were there any other surprises, like things where you were like, oh, I didn't know this about techs or about the industry?
I think beyond like just the sheer cost of, you know, what they were paying for their tools, I just think there is not as much awareness just relating to the craft itself. It's hard to really articulate what goes into what they do. And I think there should be more conversation surrounding that, because I recognize that it is not an easy job. And in some of the shops, you know, they're standing on their feet. It's hot. Some of them, you know, not air conditioned. And when it's cold, right? And so there are all these variables that I didn't really give any thoughts to prior to coming on board to DriveTime. But I think that just the value behind the work that our technicians are doing. And that's why I always try to make it a point to make sure that, you know, we're treating them right and we're doing right by them, and that they feel valued and that they know like what they do it's pretty awesome.
So is the automotive industry your home for forever?
I feel like it's probably my home forever. I don't know, like the thought of, like I was saying earlier, going back to working in a corporate office for 8 hours a day and like sitting, I don't really know if I'm capable of doing that anymore. And before, I could never imagine being out in the heat all day long, which is what I do now. It's very bizarre how that happens. But yeah, I think my roots are planted, and this is probably where I'll be.
I love it.
Yeah.
seeing what you see and doing what you do. I don't, do you have children? I don't even.
No, I don't have any kids.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you had kids or if you have children in your life, like nieces, neighbors, whatever, is this a career that you would encourage them to go into?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my husband's very close relative is in the automotive industry, and you know, he works on a lot of cars for like the family and stuff. But yeah, I don't think there's anything to, there is no shame or embarrassment about being a technician. It is a under acknowledged skill set. And so, yeah, I highly encourage people. Not everyone has to go to college for 4 years. That's not for everyone, right? And there are other things that you can do to really still survive and support your family and offer yourself that work-life balance. And I think automotive technician fits right into the realm of that.
Absolutely. So we are almost out of our time here. So my final question that I always like to end on, and I know we've talked a lot about technicians and the folks that you work with, but I also want to acknowledge you and how far you've come in your career and what you've done and coming up and growing yourself within this industry, an industry that you did not grow up in, that you are not native to, like really making a name for yourself and gaining the respect of such a large distribution center and getting as high as you have in your career is no small feat, especially as a woman, especially as a minority woman. You've definitely had your fair share of challenges. And so I want to talk a little bit on that and how you've done that, how you have succeeded in the ways that you have, and what your tips and tricks, or I guess words of inspiration, are to other folks out there who maybe don't want to be techs but want to do what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, I think for me, the first thing that I would tell everybody is what I didn't know is just be open to it, right? Because it's okay to be uncomfortable in an environment in which you're not used to. Like lean into that uncomfortableness, like embrace it. And sometimes it's going to be hard just simply because it's hard, right? And that remember that those hard times are just really small events and they're not permanent. I think being confident in your ability and just being confident in yourself, and don't be afraid to speak up, and learning to pick your battles, because not everything is a battle and needs to be a battle. And I think that it's also one of those things where it's like, don't be afraid to ask for what you want. I think oftentimes we don't speak up enough as women regarding the things that we want or the things that we actually need. And so I would say, know your worth and speak up.
How do you find the courage to do that? Where do you pull that from if you don't feel comfortable speaking up?
Yeah, I think that is something you really have to lean into. You got to force yourself out of the feeling uncomfortable, and you got to lean into that. It is not something that's learned or trained, but you have to stand up for what's right. And I think that it's really important that if it's something that you're not comfortable doing, talk to somebody else about it, like do some role plays, whatever it is that you need to do to get there, you got to do it. It's important for yourself and for all the other women that are behind you trying to get through those same doors.
Amen to that. And I love the role play tip. That's fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we talk about like, oh, just don't be scared, just speak up, right? Like it's really easy to say those things, but then it's like, okay, how do you actually do that? What are the tools that we use to tap in and find that courage, find that strength to lean into the discomfort? Like, but got like role play, what a great little gem that almost like just like flew under the radar there. Like role play with people. Like what a great tip. Is that something you do?
Yeah, so I role play with some of my employees and some of my family members when they've had some issues they want to talk to their bosses about. We kind of tell me what you're going to say to them, and then I will obviously give them all the feedback from my years of management experience. But yeah, I think you got to do those things to help yourself be prepared and make sure that you're checking your emotional side before going to have those conversations. So if you say it enough times in your head to yourself or to your family members, it's going to be easier to have that conversation. And then in addition to that, you're kind of making sure that you're aware of like your body language, the tone of your voice, that you're not being confrontational, that you're just having a conversation about the concerns that you would like to have addressed.
I'd sign up to be an employee of yours. You sound like a great manager.
Well, thank you.
This has been so much fun. It's been
Yes.
really great getting to know you, hear your perspective,
Yeah.
and hear all about what you guys are doing over at DriveTime, what you're doing in your facility. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you're dying to share with the fine folks at home?
No, I think this has been a really good experience and opportunity. I think we just have to keep doing these kinds of things, you know, to really elevate that. As women, sometimes our struggles are somewhat different than maybe our male counterparts might be. But again, it's all about having the conversation. Like, you just got to have the courage to have the conversations if things don't feel right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We always talk about, customer service comes down to like 99% of customer service problems and the world's problems really come down to miscommunication, right? And it really is the same with everything in life. Like, most of our issues come from either people just not knowing, not understanding, not seeing, not being aware of, because we don't talk about it. Right?
Yeah.
So it all starts with conversation.
Yeah, we have to do better with that. And I think we all have a personal responsibility to live in that space, own it, and advocate for it.
Amen to that. You're fantastic. This has been an absolute joy to talk to you. Next time I'm out in Georgia, I'm gonna make sure I come and visit.
Please, yes, please come visit our facility. Yeah, please come visit. We'd love to have you.
I would love to. Thank you so much for spending an hour of your evening with me. I'll let you get back to enjoying your evening. Everybody from home, thank you guys so much for tuning in and spending this time with us, getting to know Felicia, hanging out with me. Make sure you go tune into my IGTV tab. You'll see all of the past happy hours, including this one. They will live there from now until eternity. So if you're looking for moments of inspiration, wisdom, or just commiseration with other women totally killing it in the trades, go check out all of those great happy hours. Make sure you come back next week for our next episode of Trades Lady Happy Hour. Go check out DriveTime. She's not here under her own profile, so I can't tell you to go check out her profile and give her some love, but giving DriveTime some love will definitely be showing her some support and love as well, and what they are doing to make a difference for the trades folks out there in general, as well as for women in the trades and women in the industry. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Felicia, for hanging out with me. And until next week, everybody, be good to yourselves, be good to one another, and I will see you guys next week. And Felicia, have a great evening. Thank you
so much. It was a pleasure. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.